Nathan Carter sat at the small wooden table in his dimly lit apartment, staring at the stack of unpaid bills in front of him. The numbers blurred together, but the weight of them pressed on his chest like an anchor. Rent was due in 3 days. The electricity bill had a red stamp across the top. He exhaled slowly, rubbing his temples, and glanced at the clock. It was past midnight. He should be sleeping, but his mind wouldn't let him rest. Across the room, a small night light cast a soft glow over his 6-year-old daughter, Emily, who lay curled up in bed, her tiny fingers clutching a worn-out stuffed rabbit. Her slow, steady breathing was the only thing that kept him from breaking down completely. Nathan hadn't planned on raising a child alone. No one ever did. But life had a cruel way of taking away the things you loved most. 5 years ago, he had everything: a promising career as an architect, a loving wife, a beautiful home. Then cancer had taken Julia from him. One moment, she was there, holding their daughter, laughing in the kitchen as she made pancakes. The next, she was a shadow of herself, fading away in a hospital bed. Her last words haunted him every night. "Take care of her, Nathan. Make sure she knows she's loved." And so he had. He had walked away from the career that had demanded too much of his time. He had sold a house, traded in the sports car he had once been so proud of, and moved into a modest 2-bedroom apartment. He took whatever jobs he could find: bartending, construction work, night shifts at a gas station, just to make sure Emily never went without. He had given up everything. But tonight, as he looked at the bills, he wondered if it had been enough. Mornings were always a rush. Nathan woke before dawn, making pancakes the way Julia used to, even though they never quite turn out the same. Emily sat at the kitchen table, swinging her legs back and forth as she hummed a tune. "Did you dream about Mama again?" she asked suddenly, looking up at him with those big, innocent eyes. Nathan froze for a second before forcing a smile. "I dream about her all the time, sweetheart." "Me too," Emily said, poking at her pancake. "She smelled like flowers." "She did," he said softly, feeling a lump form in his throat. He walked Emily to school every morning, no matter how tired he was. It was their time together, and he wouldn't trade it for anything. As they reached the front gates, Emily stopped and turned to him. "Daddy, do you think Mama can see us?" Nathan crouched down to her level, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. "I think she watches over us every single day." Emily thought about this for a moment, then grinned. "Then I'm going to be extra good today, so she's proud of me." He laughed, pulling her into a tight hug. "She's already proud of you, baby. And so am I." He watched as she ran off to join her friends, her laughter ringing through the air. He hoped she didn't see the tears in his eyes. Time passed in a blur of long hours and sleepless nights. Nathan picked up a second job at a diner, washing dishes after his shift at the construction site. His hands were always sore, his back ached, and exhaustion was a constant companion. But then there were the little moments. Emily falling asleep in his arms as he read her bedtime stories. The way she'd run into his arms at the end of the school day. The way she still reached for his hand when they crossed the street, even though she insisted she was a big girl now. Those moments made everything worth it. One evening, as Nathan sat in the audience at Emily's school play, he saw the way she scanned the crowd, looking for him. The second she spotted him, her face lit up. She waved so hard she nearly fell off the stage. Nathan grinned and waved back, his heart swelling with pride. When the play ended, Emily ran straight into his arms. "Did you see me, Daddy? Did you see? You were amazing," he whispered, hugging her tightly. "Mama would have been so proud." Emily's arms tightened around him. "I love you, Daddy." And in that moment, every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every ache and pain, none of it mattered. Because she was happy, and that was all that ever mattered. But life had a way of testing even the strongest hearts. One winter night, as Nathan walked home from his shift, his phone rang. The number on the screen sent ice through his veins. The hospital. He ran the rest of the way, his lungs burning, his hands shaking as he pushed through the doors. "Emily Carter," he gasped to the nurse at the front desk. The woman's face softened with sympathy. "She's stable now, Mr. Carter. She had an asthma attack at school. The teachers called an ambulance." Nathan's knees nearly gave out. "Where is she?" They led him to a small room where Emily lay curled up in a hospital bed, her face pale, an oxygen mask over her mouth. The moment she saw him, tears welled up in her eyes. "Daddy," he rushed to her side, gently brushing her hair back. "I'm here, sweetheart. I'm right here." "I couldn't breathe," she whispered. It was so scary. His throat tightened. "I know, baby, but you're okay now. You're safe." The doctor pulled him aside a few minutes later. "Her asthma is getting worse. She needs better medication, regular checkups, and honestly, less stress." Nathan swallowed hard. "I work 2 jobs. I barely make ends meet as it is. How am I supposed to afford better treatment?" The doctor hesitated before saying, "There are assistance programs. We can help with paperwork." But Nathan barely heard him. He was thinking about Julia, about how he had promised to take care of their daughter, and how, no matter what it took, he would keep that promise. Nathan quit his second job the next day. He couldn't afford to work himself to exhaustion anymore, not when Emily needed him. He found a job as a school janitor instead. The pay was lower, but it meant he could be there for her, pick her up from school, make sure she took her medicine. They adjusted. They learned to live with less. But they had each other, and that was enough. One evening, as they sat on the couch watching an old movie, Emily turned to him with a serious expression. "Daddy, are you happy?" The question caught him off guard. "Of course I am, sweetheart." She studied him, as if trying to see if he was telling the truth. "Even though we don't have a big house or lots of money." Nathan smiled, pulling her close. "Happiness isn't about big houses or money. It's about love. And I have you. That's all I need." Emily beamed. "I love you more than anything, Daddy. And I love you more than anything, too." She snuggled into his arms, and Nathan closed his eyes, feeling the weight of exhaustion mixed with something far greater. Contentment. Because no matter how hard life had been, no matter how much he had lost, he still had the one thing that truly mattered. His daughter, his world, his greatest love.